tuning in. I'm Jordan Green, and this is On Track, a weekly look at the biggest news in railroading. Now, rail fans like yours truly talk a lot about preserving steam engines, but what about mid to late 20th century diesel power? It's earned its rightful place in history too, but sadly, preservation efforts for these engines seem more challenged than one might think. So, the Conrail Historical Society recently announced that Progress Rail Incorporated had scrapped 23 EMD ST80 Max, which were among some of the rarest diesel locomotives of the 20th century. Only 30 were produced, and all were owned by Conrail. So, the Historical Society and Progress Rail had been in negotiation for a long time trying to save at least one of these engines because they're so rare, but they could not reach an agreement in part because scrap metal prices are high and the engines that the locomotives have in them have a high resale value. The ST80 Max were really a key engine in the development of modern freight locomotives. As EMD grew out of its four-axle locomotive production and moved into six-axle power, the Max were a part of the transition, and they were really known for being strong locomotives with good pulling capacity. Here's a photo of what some of these engines looked like back in their Conrail glory days. So, as you can see, this period of engines is probably going to be lost to time. With 23 of them scrapped and only one being previously wrecked, there are only 6 of them left, and they're currently in the possession of Canadian Pacific, and some have been turned into parts sources for a rebuild program. The Historical Society talked about this, and they wrote on Facebook recently, with only 30 of these built and all of them being in Conrail's ownership, it's pretty difficult to see what the future of these locomotives is going to be. So we've got some technical difficulties here, but okay. I don't know why I'm not back on, but okay, there we go. So metal prices are really high right now, and the temptation for railroads to scrap these locomotives is subsequently high. But railroads would do well to understand the importance of preserving these classic locomotives, especially when railroads and dedicated preservation groups are the ones seeking to save the engines. Even though railroads are private businesses that don't deal directly with the general public much, they do need to have positive public image. As any business does, and one way to achieve that is through philanthropic giving. Some businesses have little to offer but cash, but railroads are often asked to give something that they have plenty of, and that's unused freight locomotives and freight cars. For large railroads, giving away one locomotive or one freight car is nothing, especially when said locomotive or freight car is going to be scrapped anyway. Railroads historically have played such an important role in our nation's transportation system, and they still do today. They've also been known for years as powerful employers who provide great paying jobs with benefits, though that is disputable today. But as time passes and as the industry continues to change, it's important for people to remember what the industry was and where it started. And as such, as railroads continue to consolidate, we're losing the uniqueness that each railroad had. Union Pacific, unlike a lot of railroads, is really a standard bearer when it comes to historic preservation efforts. Look no further than its massive steam engine rebuild program, and they've got engines touring the country, like Union Pacific's Big Boy 4014, which yours truly got to ride in the cab of back in August as it trekked through Oklahoma. Union Pacific not only has this fleet of steam engines, it also has a fleet of restored diesel engines and passenger cars from the 1940s. A popular time in American rail travel that really blossomed into a significant piece of Americana, which is kind of the dream of rail travel. So thousands upon thousands of people come out to see these diesel engines and steam engines touring the country every year, and there is so much to be gained for a railroad's PR by doing this. Railroads, could really capitalize on this and improve their relations with the public by preserving diesel engines. And if they don't do it in-house, they can farm it out to groups like Conrail who want and are begging to do this very thing. Railroads should really try to preserve older locomotive power for the same reason that we put anything in a museum, to pay respect to the innovation, ingenuity, and hard work that made these railroads into what they are today. And when you've got people begging to do that work for you, why wouldn't you allow them the opportunity? So again, it's really important for railroads to see the need to preserve this classic diesel power. And I'm going to hold out hope, as I'm sure you will, that they'll start to make that change. So thanks for tuning in. This is On Track, and I'm Jordan Green. Remember, you can follow us in our weekly episodes on NWTV7 on YouTube. You can also find us here on Twitch. So thanks for tuning in, and let's keep on track.